You know that moment when you're talking and it feels like the other side is actually listening, not just waiting to respond, not drifting off, not judging, just there, steady, patient, available in a way that feels almost too consistent to be real. And if you've ever found yourself opening up more in those moments, saying things you didn't plan to say, thinking thoughts more clearly than usual, you might have also noticed a quiet hesitation afterward, like part of you wonders why that felt easier than it usually does with people. Most people don't talk about that feeling, or if they do, it's often dismissed as laziness, avoidance, or something artificial, as if needing that kind of space means something is wrong with the way you connect. But it doesn't. It's a pattern, not a flaw. What's actually happening here has less to do with weakness and more to do with how your mind responds to safety, especially in the context of something that feels consistently responsive, like AI-based conversation or therapy. There's more going on here than people realize. When you interact with something that responds instantly, without visible judgment or emotional unpredictability, your brain starts to relax in a very specific way. Research in neuroscience shows that the human nervous system is constantly scanning for subtle social threats, tone shifts, facial expressions, pauses, reactions. This process is mostly automatic, and it can be exhausting, especially if you've spent years adapting to environments where responses were inconsistent or hard to read. In contrast, when those signals are removed or simplified, the brain experiences a kind of cognitive relief. It doesn't have to monitor for rejection or misinterpretation. That frees up mental space. Thoughts flow more easily. Emotions become clearer, not because they're stronger, but because there's less noise around them. And for some people, that clarity feels unfamiliar, but also strangely accurate. This isn't random. It often traces back to earlier experiences, moments where being fully open didn't feel entirely safe, or where emotional responses from others were unpredictable. Over time, the nervous system learns to stay slightly guarded, not visibly, not dramatically, just enough to keep things controlled. So when something comes along that feels consistently neutral and responsive, the system recognizes it as low risk. It's not that it replaces human connection, it just temporarily removes the pressure that usually comes with it. And that's where people tend to get it wrong. This isn't better than human interaction. It's not worse either. It's simply different. Some people regulate through unpredictability and emotional depth. Others find clarity in consistency and space. Neither is more correct. They're just different adaptations to different experiences. But here's the part that often goes unnoticed. The environment that makes it easier to open up can also make it easier to avoid certain kinds of discomfort, the kind that only exists in real, messy human relationships. Misunderstandings, pauses, imperfect responses, those things aren't just obstacles, they're also where a lot of emotional growth happens. So there's a quiet balance here. The ease you feel isn't fake. The clarity isn't artificial, but it exists in a space that's been simplified in a very specific way. And recognizing that doesn't take anything away from the experience. If anything, it makes it more honest. Because at the center of all of this isn't a dependency, or a flaw, or a replacement for connection. It's a nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, seeking safety, making sense of itself, and responding to the environment it's given. So if something about this feels familiar, it probably means you've been paying closer attention to your inner world than most people realize. And there are a few more patterns like this, the kind you usually don't notice until someone quietly points them out.